Good to go. All right, and with that, let's call the meeting to order. Please join me in the flag salute. All right, thank you for joining us this evening. Item 1 is the student oath of office, which I think we're not doing right now, okay? Because the students were off today, so they're not here. Says it's on, green light is on. Did I sit closer or? Okay. Usually I'm loud enough, so I don't think I have to crowd the mic, but let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, so then we're on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of the consent agenda, item 1 and item 2.
Okay, second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Enjoy your trip for the girls wrestling. And now for public comment, we have one person signed up, Sherry Yass. So.
There it goes. I'm Sherry Yass and I live at 707 Shields Lane. I came because I'm going to tell my positive and my negative before you hear a lot of my negative. So my grandchildren all went to private school until the last year, and I wanted them in public school. Their grandfather, their parents, they all grew up here. And I have always supported, probably only 2 of the school board members, I didn't go out Democrat or Republican. I vote the way I think who's going to do the best job for my family. So most of you, I've gone out, put signs up for, called and talked to people about that. And I have faith in you, but I want to say my oldest grandson, all my grandchildren played football this year. And the oldest one they had, the junior high, had the best year, no loss. It was an amazing year. They loved each other. And in that group of boys, there was all races in there. Like there was at least 4 different colors of children in there. And they all loved each other. There was no prejudice in that group whatsoever. I think prejudice is taught, and I think it's taught by treating children differently, and it shouldn't happen. Now, saying that, I have one grandchild right now who's not in school. He's been caught up in this whole London mess, and then some other issues have come from it. And I'm not happy. He's a good child, a sweet child, a good, excellent student, excellent athlete. Before school started this year, Pleasant Hill tried to get my grandsons to transfer there and play there. One of them was in the paper last week. They are good athletes. We want them here, but I want some changes because I'm seeing things that shouldn't happen. Like this shouldn't go on. Like they should be treated. I brought my children and my grandchildren up that no one's better than you. There's some of people who use the wrong language or have wrong thoughts, and you can tell them that, but that doesn't mean, they're not better than you and you're not better than them. But right now I'm not seeing that, and I'm not happy at all. And I have parents calling me all the time because they know I've been coming to school board meetings. And I think they think I want to be in your position, and I don't want it. But when you have a child, you're very protective of that child. But when you have a grandchild, and your grandchild is sweet and innocent and a good child, and you see them being treated wrongly, then you're even more offended and upset and unhappy about the situation, especially I think because I've lived in this area so long, I feel like there's people I don't even know. And if I see them broke down, we'll stop and help them. That's how Cottage Grove is. And I want it to stay that way. And I don't care what your sexual orientation, what color your skin is. I don't care. I just want you to be a good person. And next month, you're going to hear a lot more from me and my friends.
Thank you. Okay, up next, let's see. Oh, okay. So we'll back up and do the student oath. Okay. So if he's not the official person, he probably doesn't need to be sworn, I'm guessing, but we're happy to hear for. Okay, great. Okay. So student representative report is next, but I think we'll wait till our other student representative gets here. OSEA, SLEA. All right, so can we go ahead with the superintendent update and then back up the student reports when our other student arrives?
I was wondering, did any of the OSEA or the SLEA have a written report? If they made anything prior to meeting? Okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, Yvonne?
Okay. Because I got a longer message out to you, we don't have as much on this update. Plus, we also have a shorter month right now, so. But we have planned that on January 8th, which is our next board regular session, our administrative team would like to join the board for an appreciation meal before the board meeting, a chance to just meet board members informally, have conversation. It worked best for them to do that in January. This month is just kind of flying by. So that's going to be our dinner. Okay. 4 to 5 or? Oh, time wise, 5 to 6. So it's the night we have ad council. So in leadership, we talked about maybe having their meeting end about half an hour early and ours start half an hour later. And that way we have an hour. It gives time to chat a little bit and get to know each other. Pardon me? Not a lot. No. Yeah. and hear from them directly about what co-teaching is. Some community events. I have Southland Mental Health Board meeting coming up next week. And then the city manager interviews are going to be happening in our building. And they've asked me to be a part of that interview team, which would be kind of nice. Social emotional learning has been something we've really focused on, especially like Friday and this week. We have the youth truth surveys that went out. We'll get that data back in January 11th. And then on the 12th, all of our SEL specialists will meet, look at the data. We're also looking at a panorama survey that assesses wellness for staff and for students. And so we're going to see, you know, how well it matches or doesn't match with youth truth. So they're going to look at all of that data. They met today to start that conversation. We also had the first cohort from Peace Learning Circles that participated this summer. We're also here today with our trainers. They came a day early to just kind of gather the group together, see how things were going, giving them some more strategies and some more support, and they'll continue coaching. And then we have Peace Learning Circles going on all week here in the training room for staff from all buildings. And then we have actually a lot of training going on in the next 2 weeks because our business office is bringing in different groups of administrators, office managers, administrative assistants to give them training on our new software. Really ramping up for that conversion. And then I wanted to celebrate and appreciate Haley Ketcher. Her name just flew out of my head. She did an awesome job for the OCR audit last week. We were in 4 hours of interviews, and she was in every one of them. Because every time I listen to people talk about the program, I learn more and more of the value for kids in that program. So anyway, they were very pleased and said, we would love to know that all kids get experiences like I'm hearing, you know, students getting at Kennedy. So it seemed very positive, but again, I'm sure we'll have some findings on some things that we need to work on to make them more accessible for all students. Yes, we need to do the oath. Victor is on the can be sworn in? No.
Thank you for that. Victor Rodriguez, correct? Correct. I, Victor Rodriguez, Go ahead and repeat after me, please.
I, Victor Rodriguez,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the South Lane School District.
and the policies of the South Lane School District.
During my term,
During my term,
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the responsibilities of the Office of School Board Student Representative
the responsibilities of the Office of School Board Student Representatives
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you and welcome.
Victor was one of our participants at the student stuff. We love having student input. Forward to our.
I'd like to say welcome on board, Victor. Dina, myself, and Joe, we only got a couple more meetings ahead.
Yeah.
We'll learn together.
So they remember the swearing in as well. Okay, would you care to lead off with your report?
So far, as of right now, we are working on the clothing closet for the high school. We have currently renovated that. We have gotten new supplies. We just finished painting today that whole room. We have gotten, as I said before, we have gotten more clothes and more supplies, feminine hygiene, toothbrushes, socks, stuff to keep people in the winter warm and feeling well. We have also our sports have started. We have, what was it? Wrestling.
We have wrestling, swimming, and boys and girls basketball.
We got that going on right now. So far we have, I think it was in the last report I put in, we had an OASC, Oregon Association of Student Council meeting in Seaside. We had that, and that went very well. We got a lot of input back from the whole community of Oregon, and we brought back some great ideas of mental health and really making sure no one is have everyone speak out for each other. And so far we're doing pretty good. And we also got a spirit week coming up for the high school, a lot of engagement going on there. And so far that's what we got going for us. So
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
Clothing closet, are you involved in that? Or
yeah, no, I'm involved in that. I was painting today and did some sanding for them. And we're just overall, it's a whole group effort.
where do you get clothes from?
We're gonna buy a donation to the high school.
Clothes that, broke down.
Yeah.
And for you, we're not getting that.
No, thank you.
Okay. So you're both at CGHS, so same report, I presume, or, okay. So then we're moving on to superintendent evaluation process.
So I believe this was in our package in one of the summer meetings. So I'm mostly reviewing it for new board members, just so you know what's coming up. I have 5 goals. The last one is a shared goal with the board around communication and engagement. My documents that you will see is you'll see a mid-year progress report on the 3 district goals, which are the first 3 of my 5 goals. And then I'll have a self-reflection on all 5 goals where I will share, it'll be a PowerPoint where I share, here are the things that have gone well. Here are some challenges or some barriers, and here are some things we're working on going forward. One of the reasons I'm explaining it, because it's a little bit of a weird cycle in that I set my goals like in September, and by January, I'm giving just a progress report, and already the board has to do their steps to evaluate me, because you have to do your evaluation publicly here at the board meeting by mid-March. And because we don't have that many meetings, it takes a little bit of time to get through things. So we also have a targeted survey that the board has developed over the years that's focused on my goals. And that is sent out to groups of people the board has identified as these are the people we see work most closely with the superintendent and would know most about how she works on these things. So they random sample out of that group. And I think the question was asked last time about how many, wasn't it? Close to 50 that are something like that. So that's what we mean by targeted. It's targeted in two ways. It's targeted in that the board is surveying particular groups of people that work most closely with me, but it does include people from different stakeholder groups across the district. The other way it's targeted is that the questions are focused on those three goals that are the district goals. And then after I share all the information, the board will spend some time having a discussion, and then will meet with me in an executive session to share with me that conversation, ask me questions. I get to ask questions. And then there'll be a short summary that comes to the public board meeting. That's the one that needs to be done before March 15th. And that's usually done by the chair or leadership or small group. And then the board votes to accept that summary. And that's been the end of my process. It's not the end of our process internally, in that I'll bring in the spring then another update on our goals. And for us, it just keeps going round because our goals are 3 to 5 year goals, depending on how much progress. What changes is the smaller incremental pieces of work we define that we're doing each year on those, but we're going to stay the course on those same goals, like with the professional learning communities. We will keep that work going on, but how that work looks that we need to focus on in the district will change each year as we move along. So the dates are there. January 8th is when Tanya will send out the targeted survey, and I believe the whole board is involved on the targeted survey. So you will all see that. The 22nd, I believe, is our work session. Yes, I know it is because I leave for that other training the next day. And that's when I will share my progress report and self-reflection. Then February 5th, we have scheduled for you to have that executive session to walk through and discuss the progress. And then on February 20th, the board will meet with me, or else board leadership will share the summary document with me. And then on February 22nd, the board chair reads the summary statement to the full board. I had the date wrong. I forget. This is the part that gets confusing. So the law requires you to evaluate me by March 15th, but we have written into my contract March 1st. So it's just a little bit of adjustment, 2 weeks. And so that is why we've created that schedule, so we can finish that process by February 26th. Any questions? Anyone can ask questions, but especially our new board members. I think we went over it a little bit when I met with you in June, but I wanted it to come to you again because sometimes people are confused about the pieces and how that cycle works. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well,
Chair?
the 26th is a work session, not a regular meeting. The regular meeting would presumably be the next week.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So,
January 22nd?
no, here at the end.
He's talking about that
February
last
26th,
week.
board chair reads a summary statement at the regular meeting. That's a work session.
Yeah.
Presumably there's a regular meeting the next week.
Yeah, there
So
is
should
one
we
on the
just
4th.
read that? I mean, that's
If-
technically after
If
the
you and
first.
I are both okay with just reading it on the 4th for the vote,
Mhm.
which I'm fine with, that's okay with the full board, then we don't have to change any of the dates. I just
Okay.
put that note there so that we would all remember what my contract.
And we
said.
could potentially vote on it on the 26th and then just read it for the public on the 4th since.
Well, you have to vote on it in a regular meeting,
A
regular
regular
session.
meeting or,
Well, a public meeting.
oh, right.
And would you say 26 is a work session or an executive?
which is technically public, so we could
You
vote on
could
it
vote on it then. Yeah,
just to make sure we're in
Yep,
compliance and
yep,
then read it the next.
you could do
meeting.
that.
I think that should be the plan.
Okay.
As long as there's no objection.
What's the number of targeted surveys that we're sending out?
It was. When we reviewed it in spring, when I finished mine last time, nobody suggested any ads. We just read to you the groups. I don't know what they are, but she would have that. We read the groups at that time, and at that time, the board said that looked like the right representation.
In previous discussions, we've not changed the group to maintain consistency. But okay, next up is enrollment report. I believe that's Brian.
Thank you. So I have, I prepared this is a version of what you have in your packet today. You were sent something a little earlier today that had some incorrect percentages, but I've corrected those on this one. So I just wanted to kind of run through, especially for the new board members, but also as a review for all of us, how to read, like where to find information in this document. So kind of just a how-to to make sure you can access this document. So the first thing I want to show you is what is in yellow. So what you can see down here, which of course I can't see without my glasses. There we go. What you can see down here is the totals for each school. So if you want to know how many students are at Bohemia right now, you just go down to where those yellow totals are and you'd see that there are 436 students. And so you can go across and see how many students are in each of our 7 schools. The other thing that you can learn by the yellow section is how many students are both in a school and across the district are at a particular grade level. So you can see across, if you go to the KG line up here at the top, you'll see that there are 142 kindergartners in the district, which is really small. And then you can look down, like in first grade, we have 175, second grade, we have 168, etc. So that's the first thing I always look at when I look at the enrollment report. It just gives you an idea of where we sit right now. And as you're looking at these every month, you can kind of see some of the patterns, and you don't even have to look at some of the data down below, but you have other data that you can look at here. Do I need to pause? Oh, no, I just want to make sure that you had what you need. You just put it on the. Yeah. There will be, yeah. Okay, and then, so now let's look at the green section. This is the second thing I'd have you look at. This first green section tells you what the attendance was like last year at a particular school. And this is comparing now apples to apples. So this is comparing this year, November to last year, mid-November. So you can see an increase or a decrease in a particular school. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see the decrease total throughout the school district. So for example, between last year on 11-18 and this year on 11-18, we have 98 fewer students. Okay, so that's what you can learn from that green section. So you go down below to where it says current year, the second green section right here. This is not comparing apples to apples anymore. It's apples to oranges. It's what we were at the beginning of the year, right at the beginning, and then where we're at now. We always see a decrease from the beginning of the year to now. We see less of a decrease from now till the end of the year, but because the beginning of the year, we don't know always who is going to come and not come. There is always a decrease after about 10 days in, we're required to drop students that didn't show up. Alternative school placements around the Eugene Springfield area. And one thing that, well, let me finish and then let me tell you one thing that we're going to change about the chart here. That just tells you where we have, that there are students, like for example, Bohemia, you'll see there are 20 students in the alt placement count. Well, it's not only counting alt placements, and there's one at 4th grade and one at 5th grade, but it's also counting our preschool students, which there are 18. And we're going to take preschool out of this box and put it in its own box so we can see how many preschool students we have. So you'll see that change next month. I don't have another color I can give it, but you're just going to have to trust me. There's going to be another box at the bottom, and that's where the preschool students will be reflected. So that's, and then the notes down below, I don't see a lot of, I looked back at the notes over the past several months, and I don't see where the notes are going to be helpful to you all. They're notes that we put on there internally for internal purposes for other things that we're watching. So that is, in a nutshell, that's how I would recommend kind of looking at this every month. I won't go through it because this would bore you immensely if I were to go through it like this every month, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what you can glean out of the enrollment report. Any questions as far as setup and that sort of thing?
So this 9-8 number is before the 10-day drop, right? So that's how many people we
That
thought
would
were
be
starting
before-
school.
Yeah, that would be the first day of school.
Right.
And so then what, mid-September, when that 10 days has come and then we're required to drop anyone that didn't come,
Mhm.
that's when you see the biggest dip throughout the
Right.
year.
So it's likely that the majority of those 58 students were that we are
At that point,
supposedly
yeah.
down.
And then the rest
We're
of the year,
10
it comes up and down depending on the time of year. Around the Christmas holiday or the holiday season, we have additions and subtractions at that point. We have some movement there. Around spring break, we have more movement. So it just depends on the time of year. But I think the biggest chunk comes at that 10-day drop.
Earlier, we were talking about. So when we're down in kindergarten, this means that they didn't come. No?
I don't know
Like
what you're
how-
referring to, Yvonne.
I think she's getting at how we determine what the 9-8 number should be for kindergartners, because we know that they're not necessarily all registered. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
The 9-8 is true for all K-12 students.
Disregard what I said.
Okay.
Whole different set of.
Okay, so I mean, if there's questions that you have about what you see, you're welcome to ask them, not just of me, but of Yvonne or whomever. But I just wanted to make sure, my job was to make sure that I kind of showed everyone how to look at this report and how you can access it every month.
I got the report. Yeah, I got the report earlier today, and I was looking at some of the percentages that popped out and are different. The numbers are the same. And I have a question about what we do with this report. What we do with this report. Are you not getting me? I'm green. Do I need to get closer? So the questions I have two questions. One is 3 questions. What do we do with this report? How is it used? It seems like we spend a lot of time creating it. But 2 is the enrollment in kindergarten in line with what's happening all across the state, where school districts are seeing a drop in enrollment. There's been in the news lately, failing schools with their budget cuts, and some of it's due to funding and some of it's due to decreased enrollment. And so when I see that the percentages are not the same, it doesn't lead me to believe that people are leaving the district as much as maybe there's just less kids entering. If less kids entering kindergarten this year, that means next year the elementary will see, or we might see a 20% decrease in enrollment in elementary school, and that would flow, and then you would see less in middle school in 5 years and less in high school in 9 years. And we would hope that next year our kindergarten rate would be positive. Maybe they just didn't have kids.
Maybe COVID played into it, but that worries me because all over the news with this Salem Kaiser thing, you hear budget cuts, and nobody's talking about it here that I hear. The second thing is when I look at the numbers, the last year's numbers on this enrollment report, we don't know why or where these kids are going, but I see a 34% decrease at London. And I see for current year with the 9-8 date, a 12% decrease at London. Now the numbers, you lost 24 students at Lincoln, but you have 500 plus enrolled, where you lost 9 at London with only 71 enrolled. So the percentage is higher. It's triple. And the elephant in the room, and we heard public comment today talking about that school, and I think it was referred to as the London mess. I just wonder if that has something to do. And then with that, the question is, we don't see really any increases in the 9-8 numbers to show that these kids are going somewhere else when they leave London. And we have public testimony today that says that at least one of them has not gone somewhere else. And so all those numbers, so I think I answered the first question is, what do we do with this? It's data, it's hard data. We try to figure out if there's problems here. And to me, it indicates a problem. The data and the public testimony tonight indicates a problem, and we should be talking about it.
About one way is to look at
Mhm.
trends. One thing we do with this data is to look at trends.
Yeah.
And we look at those trends to determine what we need to take into account when we do budget. So you'll hear us bring those questions back up, although this is what I just confused the issue about earlier, and that is the numbers in this report aren't exactly the ones we use for budget. In terms of kindergarten, you asked that question. So what I have heard from superintendents is that most of the school districts are down in kindergarten, and we don't really know the reason for that. Yes, we had students leave London school. Some of them went to Lincoln, so that's some of those increased numbers you have there. And some we don't know until we get the information request for their records. I think I addressed the 3 things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Do we have a way to get, how many kids were born or living in the school district? As far as how many kindergartners would, yeah.
Well, it's online. I mean, we can go look at census
Mhm.
data, but it's only taken every 10 years.
Yeah, right.
And the challenge is, it doesn't really help us that much
Mhm.
because we don't know if they've actually gotten everybody to answer the census data, and especially since we're so rural. So I think it is used at the state level to start to project, how many kids are in education and how many they're going to have to budget through state school fund and all of that. But it doesn't really help us with our internal budgeting processes. The other thing that I am not even going to try to explain, but when we get to budget time, is the formula for which we get our state school fund money is adjusted every quarter. And we don't actually get paid on the students that we have right now for 2 years. And that's very confusing. So they're always adjusting our 2 years at a time quarterly. And so SLEA gets those reports and she looks at our budget and she looks to see, is there anything she needs to anticipate? For some school districts, if their drop was huge and actually probably the drop was a couple years ago and now it's finally showing up in those quarterly adjustments. And sometimes it'll show up mid-year and you have to make adjustments. I've been in districts where they've done things like cut down school days or reduce staff. Hopefully we never have to do that, especially during the middle of the year. But so far we haven't had an adjustment that is raising us to alarm, but we check that every quarter.
So that can come from an influx of kids in, say, 2025 or 2026. And we're going to get paid for 2023. And then we have to
Right.
make some cuts because we have too many here.
Yeah. So it's very confusing trying to figure out how to predict.
I guess
And especially because your budgeting is for a biennium. It's for 2 years.
I haven't been a part of the budget process for the school district yet. I'm looking forward to it. I guess I'll learn some there, but that did answer my question. I'm not so much concerned with the enrollment at the kindergarten level, if in fact that's true, what we're hearing, and that's what I see, that
Yeah,
enrollment's
we don't have
down.
control on that.
I'm
yeah.
more really concerned, I'm concerned about the decrease amongst all the schools and not seeing a positive increase somewhere where those kids may have gone, but also with the specific drop at the drop specifically at London. So I think it's a conversation we need to have.
And the drops across the levels is also happening at Lane and across the state because we keep hearing that people are leaving the state.
And I think even nationwide. And then my daughter just did a report recently on how the birth rate in the United States and like all of the developed countries is below the replacement rate.
Right. It's like
So
at 1
that's-
point something.
So that's a
1.6 or
grander,
1.5.
a grander trend that every education system is facing.
Yeah, so all my questions were answered, but I think I would like to hope, I hope that we can talk about it later. I'm not prepared to talk about it now, but if we could talk about the London thing and try to figure out where these kids went, and if there are kids that are in our district that aren't going to school, we need to find them and make sure they're going to school. If we could talk about that at a later time. I don't think anybody has the
Potentially, I
answer.
mean, there's, as Yvonne said, really, there's not a whole lot of resources that we have available to us. Pretty much the district knows where a student has landed when they send a records request to enroll in school.
But we should,
And that doesn't always happen.
we should be concerned though, when we know that they landed here on school day one and then they exited and they have not entered another one of our schools. So that's my concern. If I have any ideas or
So
any
yeah,
other questions,
we're
I'll send
always
an email.
concerned and we do watch that data. She gets the data also on the students that have enrolled in charter schools. What? And in homeschool, we get that information as well and we look at it. We won't be discussing that here in terms of individual kids because we don't discuss individual students, but also we don't discuss groups when the groups are small n size and kids can be identified. I can share some of the information we know in a general way, just like I did now to say, we know we have some that go to online charters. We know we had some that did enroll from London in our schools. We know some that we don't know anything about because they didn't show up on the homeschool. They didn't show up on any of the online charters or any of our charters. So it kind of falls in those 4 categories.
Do they have to tell the state or whoever that they're homeschooling the kids?
They're supposed to enroll for homeschool with our ESD,
Mhm.
but
Whether they do or not?
there's nobody to hold them accountable to
Right.
that.
Okay.
Just like there's no way to hold parents accountable or students accountable to not coming to school,
Right.
once they're enrolled, there really isn't any
Can we,
support for that.
could we, as a board or as a district, reach out to Child's Way and ACE for some numbers to see if maybe their numbers increased?
Well, we
get
have
their
their
last
numbers right
Yeah,
here.
we have. all
But
that.
it doesn't include the last year on or the 9-8 numbers.
We have all the numbers on them because those are our in-district charters.
This is not on the report. And that's why I'm asking. If I was looking over here and I saw ACE and I saw ACE plus 12%, that would tell me, oh, okay, that's maybe where these 3 are.
There's a specific number of slots
Yeah.
that a charter school contracts with the district to use. And both ACE, I believe, Chad, both ACE and Child's Way are using all of their slots, and they have been for years.
But do they experience a dropout, the 10-day drop like we do? Or in this case, this year, did they get an increase? And if they did get an increase, then
They can't get an increase.
So
if
they're maxed
already at
out.
their max.
Yeah.
they're maxed out.
And when a student chooses to go to a charter school, you don't get the 10-day drop usually because they've chosen to go there over another school across the state or in some cases on our district. And so they don't experience the same trends we do. Theirs is much more, they don't fluctuate nearly as much.
I'm just trying to find out where these kids are going. So thank you.
You got it.
Okay, any further questions on enrollment report? All right, next up, we have policy BDDH, public comment at board meetings. Yeah, I mean, I think this mostly came up now because of the 2 times per year thing that we voted on previously. The lawyers didn't like that. But then at the same time, OSBA had a pretty extensive update coming through. So we just did them.
We combined them
just
both.
didn't- Yeah.
So it'd be the most current level. So the part that is yours in, you have that yellow, yeah, yellow is what this board had voted on before. And then we did have our attorneys take a look at it and they recommended that we not limit people. Because that's limiting their First Amendment right.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, point of order, Tina, Joe Tucker and myself were not a part of that board when that vote was taken.
Right.
You said this board, just want to clarify that.
Sorry.
None.
Our board.
Yeah,
at
thank
the
you.
time.
Thank you.
And then the parts where you see the strikeouts and the shaded, those are the new ones that OSBA made those adjustments based on any new law.
Either added or
Yes.
subtracted.
Yes. So this gives you an example of how we see when they recommend something. They have our language struck out, if
Mhm.
that's what they're recommending. They put in shading the new language, and sometimes it's just updating language to what is kind of the current language, like in the law and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes you'll see it's really specific and you can tell it's probably legal language. Let's see if there's anything else different that we would talk about.
I think I find one tiny little thing on page 2, item 2. There's that little yellow section in the middle of the gray, and I think between those two, we just need the word or.
Yeah, I was confused by that too. It
Let's
runs
sign in
on.
the quick comment. Or complete and submit the public, yeah.
So that is or, not an and. I was wondering that myself
Yeah.
earlier.
Actually,
Or.
we even talked about that.
Yeah,
I
talked
think
about
we
it.
just forgot to make that.
So that's why it was highlighted.
Oh, she couldn't make the change.
Right, okay.
This is just an information for us to look at and then we'll.
Then we'll ask them to make the changes and we'll bring it back. This is first
Oh.
read.
Yeah.
First read.
So, okay, on first read, we need an or there.
Okay.
Any other questions or observations, anyone? Okay, moving on to the SIA Annual Report.
All right, I'm going to talk more. Sorry. There's a couple things that I'm going to go over. The first is the SIA Student Investment Account Annual Report. Just super quick background. Is remember that there are several different grants that go into what we now call integrated guidance. Okay, and the hard thing about putting them all together like the state has is that they are still different grants with different grant agreements with different requirements. But the state has asked us to do one plan, which is fabulous. So we only have one plan for student investment account, high school success, early intervention systems. But the grant agreements are all different still. And so the reporting requirements are different as well. You notice that I'm not reporting on high school success because that's not a requirement, but it is a requirement, and it's not a requirement for early intervention systems, but it is a requirement for SIA. So that's why you hear me just talking about the student investment account report, because this is required by the state to do in a board meeting, and it has to be accepted by a board or approved by the board. So I gave you the written report, and I'll just highlight a few things. This doesn't include, again, all the things that we're doing in high school success and SIA and with district funds and that sort of thing. It's specific to what we're doing with student investment account funding. And this funding is primarily for historically underserved students that need more support. So that's what this report is about. I'll just point out a few things, and then if you have questions, we can go on. I can talk as long as you need me to, or elaborate on things, but I just wanted to give you the gist since I gave it to you all in writing. Couple things, English language learner support. Over the past couple of years, we've really increased, doubled the amount of staff we have working with our English language learners. And that is part of the student investment account efforts. Under equity training, it's been really cool to watch the work that we're doing with the University of Washington with our administrators and now teachers as well, and how that is now the same work that we're doing with professional learning communities. And it's all one working to help all students achieve at high levels. And so it's not, it used to be two different initiatives, if you will, but now it's just all one work for our administrators and for the teachers that are involved. So that's been really cool to watch. Another thing that I point out is with community care specialists and social emotional learning specialists, we have them in services in all of our schools now, which is something that we didn't have a few years ago. So that's pretty cool. And then the last thing I wanted to mention in that section is summer school. You know what happens at summer school, like in a nutshell, kiddos, especially at elementary, they do work in reading and math. But one thing, we did some data, looked at some data this year about, we invited a certain group of students that needed help in reading and math. And we noticed that of those kids that we invited, if you came, you made 4 times the growth that you did if you didn't come. And so that's in reading. And so that was pretty cool to look at, like, because we were asking ourselves at the end of last year, this is a lot of effort. Is it making a difference in kids' reading and math levels? It didn't make as much difference in their math ability and their math levels, but in reading, it made a substantial difference as compared to those that were also struggling with reading and didn't go to summer school. So that was pretty cool to look at. Another thing that I highlighted in this report is engagement. As you'll notice, and this is something that the previous board, and I'm sure this board had talked about and will talk about, and that's engagement with our community. And you'll see as a part of our integrated guidance plan, there's a lot more engagement that we've planned and are already doing with our community. We already had like Yvonne mentioned, our first student success team as a part of IG integrated guidance. There is a English language learners parent night that's happening on Wednesday night of this week, and targeting all of those folks that speak Spanish and mom in our community and that need more information about our schools. And individual schools are doing more as well. So there was an increase in SIA, but you'll see more of an increase too in our integrated guidance efforts. So in a nutshell, that's what's in the report without me reading it all. If you have any questions, I'll take those. Otherwise, I recommend that you adopt the annual report.
Anybody have any questions for Brian about the SIA report? All right, well, then we need a motion on this.
Make a motion to adopt the student investment account annual report 2022-2023.
Okay, have a motion, need a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous.
Thank you, Brian.
Welcome.
A lot of information.
Now integrated guidance grant agreements.
Okay, this is exciting. Hold on. Okay, so just kidding. So like I said before, there's 3 different integrated guidance is all one big, to us, it all works together, right? But for the state still, there's some rules, and one of those is that there are 3 separate agreements. 2 of the 3 agreements do not need to be approved by the board. One does. And instead of making that confusing, I put them all on the agenda to be approved, because you can approve 3 just as easily as you can approve 1. And so I put them all on here. In a nutshell, the biggest difference between the 3 grant agreements is in the SIA agreement. There are things called long-term professional growth targets. They're goals for 5 different areas. They're goals for attendance for the district, for 3rd grade reading, for 9th grade on track, for 4-year high school completion and 5-year high school completion or equivalent. So those are the things that they're asking us to track, and they got on a call with us in August and had us set goals for 5 years that they're then not going to let us change for 5 years. So we had to pretty much predict what our growth over 5 years would be. And that's not like when you look at data and you look at goal setting, that's not really a good way to go, but that's the way the grant reads, and that's what we were required to do. So we set those targets for 5 years, and we got to set the reasonable goal, and we got to set the stretch goal. And that's something that we're looking at constantly. So as a part of that data cycle, those 5 indicators we're looking at as constant as we have new data on them. So that's something that we're really keeping an eye on, not just for this, but because they are key indicators of success in school. So, well, not necessarily the graduation rate. I mean, that's kind of after the fact, but the other 3 are key indicators of success in school. So that's really the only thing the big thing you'll find in the SIA grant agreement that you won't find in the other 2 because it's not required for the other 2. I know I gave you access a little bit later today. Sorry about that, Taylor, to take a look at these grant agreements. Do you have any questions about the grant agreements?
No. Anybody else? Okay, so.
We have plans to spend the money?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have plans to spend the money? I saw there was some money in there for career and technical instruction.
Yeah, what we can do later is with last year's board. Well, and the other thing you could do, Dwayne, is you could look at the slide presentation that's linked in this report, and you can go and look at what we presented to the board in the spring. You might have been there. I don't know if you were, because I know you came to a few board meetings in the spring in May and June.
I wasn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, thought you had.
I don't
Um,
recall.
What was that?
I don't recall.
Okay, you'd know, so I must be wrong.
But I know that they can give you like $750,000 on one of these, and I think I would have saw that. So.
Well, yeah, well, it's over $2.4 million is all of this funding. And so
together,
if you looked at the slides that I linked in here, it will show you in CTE what we plan to do.
Okay.
In all the different areas what we plan to do. So for the 3 new board members, that's a way that you can kind of catch up on that. If you ever need more information on that, I'm more than glad to show you what we do with all those funds, because it's really good work, and it's really focused on our 3 district goals. It's not pet project here and pet project there. We're really focused on this, and it's really fun to do work like that.
Okay,
Exciting.
Absolutely.
so if there are no further questions, this again is an action item. So we need a motion and a second and a vote.
And he's written the recommended statement to accept all 3 of the agreements for
I
you.
recommend that the board approve all 3 grant agreements to allow funds to be spent according to our approved.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you. And last business item is the OSBA elections. And so the deal here is that the board gets 1 vote. So, so basically, I think on each of the 4 items, we vote on each of those, and whatever the majority vote is our vote on that item. And the first couple, they're unopposed, so seems fairly straightforward.
For board position 6, Linda Hamilton from the Lane ESD. That was a motion.
Okay, so that's a motion. Second,
I second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so that one passes.
For the LPC position 6, Judy Newman, Eugene 4J.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Question 3 is about creating a rural school board members caucus. This is like a separate subgroup within the OSBA. They did one recently for
Members of
persons of color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I make a motion that we adopt this.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I definitely agree. That can only be good for us to have more representation on the board, I think. And item 4, there was like 5 pages of little changes to the bylaws that were very exciting to read, and I hope everybody enjoyed them.
I make a motion that we vote yes on the changes to the bylaws.
Okay.
I'm
all
pretty
in
sure,
favor?
I'm pretty sure they were written by lawyers.
Yes, they were. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? All right. And so that's that. The rest of us, we just need to put our name on it. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And with that, that is all of our business for the evening. So it's time to go around and do individual reports. Tam, would you like to start this time?
Sure. I saw the play at the high school about, like, if you only had 8 minutes left because the sun blew up, what would you do? And I am just gonna say, I am so glad that the dogs person made it home in 8 minutes. So, that was a real nail biter throughout the whole play. Was that guy gonna get home for that poor little dog? And whoever played the dog, that was amazing. He did a great job playing the dog. And the students at our I forgot what the
Student success team.
student success team. Thank you. The students were so impressive. They knew what they were talking about. They asked questions that were important and on target. You know, I just think back when I was in high school, no way would I be asking questions like that. I was more into, you know, what's for lunch? Or when is the bus going to be on time? That was kind of what was important to my life. But these kids were really, these young people, excuse me, were really impressive. And one guy with all the data, whoo, he's gonna go places. Oh, and thank you to all of them that showed up. That's amazing.
Great, thank you. I should probably interject for the guys who are new. At the end, we just kind of go around and talk about things we've done that are, you know, somewhat relevant to the district, events we've attended, things on our mind, things like that. And so if you guys would like a chance to speak, you're welcome to, but we'll go through a couple so you can get a feel for it, and then I'll look at you, and if you want to, you're welcome to. So Tina, would you like to go next?
Oh, I'm sorry, I really don't have much to say because there was basically a bad week. So.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Okay, no problem at all. Then let's go to Dwayne.
First, I wanted to give thanks to the principal at Harrison, Brea Middleton, who I got to meet, passed away with her battle with cancer, and anyways, got to meet her, and I'm glad she got to attend school, and got to be around children. And I know that the teachers and the principal at Harrison had a tough day and probably still dealing with the kids and how they feel about that, and the experience and educating them and giving them hugs and such. So I want to thank the team out there at that school for doing that. I want to remind the public that the Youth Truth survey is out, and I think it's due on December 15th. If you don't find it on the South Lane page, you can go to Facebook and find it on the South Lane districts page and different pages around town. I did want to, I had a member of the public reach out to me, and they were surprised to read that a school district in Iowa for the last 2 weeks of the school year, for kids that might be failing or need some credits in PE, can volunteer to do yard work for people in their community. And so they had sent an email to all of us earlier today, and I reached out to the member of the public and shared with them this story from this KWWL news. that has a contact number for the teacher who they can sign up with to have kids come out and help with yard work and to the public so they can call to have yard work done and such. And it's 2 weeks. At first, I thought this was like a year-long project, and I thought about how much time this would take to create and who we'd pay to run it and such. But then to find out it's just the last 2 weeks of school. But that was pretty cool that they could go out and help the community. So anyways, I got the flyer here with the telephone number. If somebody can help me find the right person to get it to, which is what this public member's intent was, to get it to the right person, I can share that with you.
That was an alternative school, and I
It
was
is,
gonna forward that on to our alternative school.
Okay.
This,
I can
they
give
do
this
some,
to
I
you. It has a telephone number. if you wanna-
already have it.
You got it? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it was sent to me as well.
Okay, cool. You got the telephone number for the teacher back there in Iowa? It's running it? Right there. It's right here on the bottom. Yeah, no, it's in this news story.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And then, so then earlier I talked about the budget cuts in Salem. Proposed cuts to new vehicle purchases, and we talked a couple months ago about school buses and needing new school buses for emissions and such, and conference travel program reductions, a reduction in dual language instruction, which some of that stuff we talked about tonight. 63 district leaders this is a proposal. 63 district leaders could have their base salaries frozen next year, and I just wonder what that does for morale. And the superintendent, although she makes a lot more than our superintendent here, is going to personally invest $30,000 of her own salary over this year and next year into student, staff, and youth serving organizations, which is, I could applaud her for that. But if this is happening in our state capital, and we see was it 18% decline in kindergarten enrollment in the district, amongst other things, then we gotta admit that we gotta pay attention to this, because it takes money to take care of the kids. So I got some stuff printed out if anybody wants to see it. If not, I'll just take it home and read it again. I did want to I want to clarify what it takes for a board member to get something on the agenda. I did send an email out last week, I think 24 hours, let's see, on Wednesday at 11:30 in the morning. I hadn't gotten a response back. I wanted to add some stuff to the agenda, talking about SLEA's report about finance, and John Stinnet's board summary that was in the newspaper on November 17th, and also about working on changing the board operating agreement from will to should, so that we could all sign it, so there's not an empty line on the form that's on the website.
The
And I didn't-
non-response on that is my bad.
Okay. Well, I you don't have to apologize or nothing, but I just wondered, what is the policy? Is it that, because I can't find anything, is it this 24 hours? Says I get the email saying you guys are going to meet on the Thursday for the agenda session, and I just figure I can't drop it in your lap on Thursday morning.
Then agenda goes out on Thursday.
Right, you
not
guys
on
meet-
Tuesday.
The agenda setting meeting is the middle of the day on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay, so I was a
So
day
if you
late.
could Get something to us.
So I
on
was a day late.
Monday, ideal.
I sent it out on the 29th at 11, thinking I was sending it out a day before, so it wouldn't be lost, but I actually sent it out on Wednesday. So that's on me then. So Tuesday, not Thursday. Okay, I'll do
Ideally Monday,
Monday.
because
Okay,
I don't.
24 hours
necessarily-
then, 24 hours
That
before
would
the
be
meeting.
good.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Don't we have an agreement that one person couldn't put an agenda item on, that it had to be more than one person?
We've had a little back and forth about that, so I'm not
It
entirely
says
clear.
that in our policy. I just
That it has to be more than one person.
Or, isn't it, or the board chair?
Yeah,
That's what I
well,
thought.
board leadership and the superintendent set the agenda.
Right.
In a meeting on the Tuesday before
Yeah.
the Monday.
I thought it was 2 or more at a meeting, or if I sent some information to you, then you guys could decide as leadership to place it.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
That's what it.
Okay. So we'll move on. I'll send that out to you next Monday in January. And the reason why is I found something really cool with what the city of Cottage Grove did, but we'll just talk about it next time. Let's see. I gotta be honest, I wasn't thrilled with John Stinn's board summary. I'll tell you what I wasn't thrilled with. At the last meeting, we had a lengthy discussion about the board operating agreement and the word will. It wasn't really so much instructing a board member that they will support the decision, but more the board member signing to the promise that they will support the decision. And that's the real issue I had. In John Stinnett, who I found out the school district employees instead of just saying that much of the conversation was about the word will or should, he added he said that it was a little word, one little word, and it wasn't just once, but it was twice. And so I started to think about, what does that mean? Is it little word like a or I, or is it a big word like supercalifragilistic, that word, you know? And then somebody suggested to me that maybe it's of little importance. So I thought about that for a while, and that's kind of what I get out of it. So we're the goal is that we're hiring somebody. This board, Joe, Tina, and myself didn't vote on this, but the board previous had voted to or agreed to hire somebody to write a summary of the board meetings so that the public can learn what we do here. And then we've got somebody who's adding to it. It's almost like their own narrative or a spin on it. So I just got to express my discontent with that. And if anybody shares that, we can maybe work to clarify what he is supposed to write.
So noted.
Then
I really appreciated it because we haven't gotten a summary of that, like that out to the public. And I thought that he did a really good job because it was a long meeting and he, compressed it.
I also appreciate it, and I think that he did a good job. I didn't appreciate the adding of making it your own. It should be what happened. And yes, we did have an hour-long discussion about those words, but to define it as a little word, that's like a news story they ran in the Sentinel about vigilante, and then the editor goes on to say vigilante can mean anything. Well, that can mean anything, and that's not what we're doing here. We're supposed to lay it out the way it happened for the people who aren't watching the meeting to know exactly what happened. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. If anybody agrees with me, get a hold of me and we can work to clarify what his job is to do and maybe present it to the board. Okay. And there's a lot of good stuff going on, but welcome, Victor, and I didn't get your name. Was Hayes, and you're here replacing Laura? In place of Laura. Okay. Well, maybe we should swear you in. That way, if you do come in again, then we got you and you could vote. But
He's not a fit.
this is good. This is good. This is the future right here. And I look forward to the elections in 2025 and finding some young people, somebody between my age and your age, to sit up here on the board to represent the students of South Lane and the parents and everybody. So thank you for coming in and taking time out of your evening to be here. Good to see you. Thank you.
About that, Blaine?
I'm done. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Sherry.
I think the most important thing that I did the last month was the OSEA conference. I thought that was very well attended and had some very good programs. I went, as several ESD board members did, a day early for the board training. And I had Tanya send to you all, and you have that excellent presentation. I thought, oh my God, there's one guy that's going to speak from 9 to 4. But he kept us engaged, did a really good job, and there are a lot of really good ideas out of this. So when you have an opportunity to read this, then Dwayne and I can come back with some of his stuff and we can discuss it, huh?
For 9 hours. Okay. I got to leave here at 10:10.
Anyway, and it was really good to have some off time with the board members that attended. That's one of the best things I think about the conference, is getting to know fellow board members.
Agreed. Victor, Hayes, did either of you want to take a moment? You don't have to, no pressure. Just want to make sure that you're offered the opportunity.
Well, and we were talking about earlier, play at CGHS. I was a part of that play, including Laura. Yeah, I just want to say that we're really glad that the community came out and see that play.
Was that all day meeting? that-
The data
Thank you
one.
both for doing that. That's something I would be interested in, but there was just no way I could make that much time. So thank you both very much for being involved. Okay. Joe.
So at first, I'd like to just apologize that I haven't been more involved because I am absolutely committed to this. I was able to attend the state cross-country meet. And that was pretty fun. I want to say hats off to the girls and boys. Represented Cottage Grove very well. I mean, I was really impressed because I ran my guts out in high school and I know how these kids, how difficult that is. I remember standing up on the top, looking around, and Jerry Settlemeyer, I'm standing next to Mr. Settlemeyer, and I'm like, man, this is, pretty cool. And he was like, there's lots of kids that would not even be able to run this course, let alone run it at the level that our kids are participating, which is hats off to. I know Hayes was in with that, and the girls have done really well, which is, I'm really excited to see such a young group of young ladies that when I watch these girls warm up, they are like this. And it's like, and they're just a tight knit group. And then, it's just amazing how wonderful it is to see these kids just loving on each other, basically. And so I really appreciate it, how well you guys represented Cottage Grove. That was great.
And then they go and do the soccer and 5 hours later.
I know, and that's where I was like, I didn't make the soccer game, darn it. But
You're kind of tired. I mean, did you get that second win?
So I personally didn't participate. I was varsity lifeguard.
Oh, okay.
I was a JV runner, but one of my friends started eventually went from winning the state
Right.
cross-country meet to then playing in the soccer game. And I remember talking to him during the warm-up of the soccer game.
Warm-up.
Yeah.
Already. Right.
When you see him, probably good job.
Was that all you had, Joe? Okay, Colleen.
So, I want to talk about the OSEA conference and then give a shout out to the soccer player. So, I really appreciated this. It was my second opportunity to go to the conference. And again, what you were saying, Sherry, getting a chance to connect with the board members that really makes a more cohesive team. I appreciated it. Thank you so much. And I went to a few of the breakout groups, but the one that I wanted to bring back and talk about a little bit and just kind of really meets up with what has been going on tonight was about student voice and appreciating student voice and trying to work it more into how we do business here as a district. And I was really impressed with, so the guy that ran the breakout group was the person that organized the Seaside event for you all. And it started off being 2 kids that were on this kind of a board where we could, ask questions and hear about their experience with student voice in their schools. And there were 2 other students that joined just on the fly. And so it wound up being 4 kids from 3 different schools. And it was really wonderful to hear how invested they are in leadership and in trying to make a difference in their schools and in their communities. And I would just like to throw my weight behind the more we can incorporate students into how we run our district. I would really appreciate that and support it 100%. So thanks to all the students. Guys, and keep up the good work. And then I also I went from the OSBA conference over to the game, and you guys did really well. And I wish it would have been a different outcome. And hats off to the Newport team. They played really hard. And I have a lot of excitement around the season for next year. So continued success to the Offensive Player of the Year for Cottage Grove and for the rest of the team as well. Good.
All right,
Yeah.
and I'm last, and I actually have a few things to say, but I'll try and make it as quick as possible. First of all, yes, much gratitude to the staff of Harrison for all the support. A hard one and going to be for a while. But on a lighter note, I did the jingle run on Saturday with our 100. Huh? Oh, cool. Yeah, with a couple hundred. Rachel did the little kitty. But Susanna and I did the 5K together. I had more than I did. Yeah, it was great. I had a pretty competitive 6 mile time, but I only ran 3. No, I'm just saying, if I run 6 miles, that would have been a good time. I'm proud that I did actually run the whole thing, and it was a really good time.
5 minutes and still do it. I
You
could do that.
You can walk it. Lots of people did. I walked half of it last year, which was my first year.
Gonna say, I watched you run by as I'm sitting there reading the paper.
I also went to the OSBA convention and it was a really good time, very informative. The first keynote speaker I thought was really good.
Yeah.
His presentation and probably the little quickie thing, the point that he made that I'm carrying with me is to talk about each student instead of every student. And that's a sort of a small difference, but also kind of a big difference. And he had a lot of other really good and interesting and inspiring things to say. But then of the presentations that you choose, I went to one about starting a foundation for like an endowment for the school district. It's a separate 501c3, but helps with funding, and it's sort of an ongoing, like most of your universities have things like these, and in particular it was due for school district and Corvallis school district when they talked about how they did that and how they partnered with the district to fund things that the district couldn't fund, but then also the district would sometimes say, oh, well, we can take that off your plate because we have this pocket to benefit that. And it's an ongoing thing that I think would be good for any school district, hopefully ours. And then I can't remember where Heidi is from, but the superintendent of Umatilla talked about what they had done with their EA situation, and how they'd just done a whole lot of things to improve because they were perpetually short of subs and EAs. Really too much to explain, but a really good and interesting program there. And with that we could bring into the district that would help our situation, because I know we've, at least for the last couple of years, been perpetually having a hard time finding subs. And then the last one I went to was about communications, and wound up being surprisingly moving and sad because of some of the things that the presenter had done. He was at Umpqua Community College several years ago and talked about that process and coaching them through things. And then one of the members shared a tragedy they'd had and how anyway, but it was also very interesting and gave some good ideas for how we as a board can better communicate with the public and the press. And then the last thing is that the chess team had their first match last Wednesday. We have maybe 10 players, which is the most that we've had in a long time. We had 9 there. And we drew the match with our top 5 players, and then the other 4 players went 2 and 2. So we broke even. And for a high school team that only had 2 high school players, I think we did really well, and that really bodes well for the future. And the highlight for me was we got back on the bus, and I kind of went, okay, we broke even, blah, blah, blah. Did everybody have a good time? Yeah. So that just warmed the coach's heart, and I'm very much looking forward to this week. And with that, that's all I have. And adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming.